In this video, I explain why it's essential to pay attention to Paul's biography. I'll turn after to the iconic representation of Paul's conversion in the book of Acts. Hello, I'm Jean-Francois and I sit here in the chair of wisdom to talk about Paul's biography. Why should we pay attention to Paul's biography? If you go to the GTU library and look at the BS2506 call number, you'll find that many authors have invested time and energy in writing a biography of Paul. I think, for instance, of John Knox, Robert Jewett, John Hurd, Gerd Ludemann, Gerald Murphy O'Connor, and Gregory Tatum. Hence, it's useful to pay attention to Paul's life events to appreciate his letters, especially if one agrees with the premise that Paul's letters are circumstantial writings prompted by specific questions asked by specific groups and that they address situations relevant for these groups. Also, scholars often ask whether Paul's thoughts evolved on some subjects because he had to explain them further when new questions arose. For instance, would it be possible that Paul's view could mature on topics such as the Second Coming and the resurrection of the dead because the churches ask him more questions about this? If such an evolution were possible, it becomes crucial to have the letters in the right chronological order. The major problem of writing a biography of Paul are the sources. We got two main sources, the letters themselves and the Acts of the Apostles. Unfortunately, the letters don't provide much material to write Paul's biography. The biographical details that they include are often accidental. Besides, they are mostly subsumed under other considerations. Yet the letters come directly from Paul. By contrast, the Acts of the Apostles provide much information about Paul's life. Yet the origin of this information is uncertain, for it is uncertain that the author of Acts ever met Paul. Also, this information sometimes differs from those found in the letters. Should we therefore rely equally on Paul's letters and on the Acts of the Apostles when establishing Paul's bio? Should we consider these sources unbiased or so biased that they are unreliable? The readings from Gorman and Knox help us dig further into the problem of a Pauline biography. I'm also curious to know where you stand on this. This is why we have a discussion forum on this very topic. The best known and paradigmatic episode of Paul's life is the account of his conversion. It is found in Acts 9, 22, and 26. Many people use it as a template to describe a radical change of outlook on something from being strongly opposed to being strongly in favor. In some cases, Paul's conversion serves as a model to speak of a radical change of behavior for the better. Paul's letters don't describe this threshold moment. Paul mentions that at some point he persecuted the Jesus movement and that he came to consider as rubbish his previous religious achievements. Still, the letters have no dramatic account that compares with the one found in Acts. Instead, Galatians mentions a call which includes the revelation of the Son of God and a commission to make him known among the Gentiles. If we were to rely more on Paul's letters, how much are we willing to let something go off the dramatic and paradigmatic story of the Acts of the Apostles? I suggest that iconography has contributed to making the accounts of Acts 9 even more dramatic. I was probably 7 years old the first time that I heard about Paul's conversion during my religious education class. I was in Catholic school at that time. Well, actually, I never left Catholic school. Our textbook had a colorful picture of Paul falling off a big horse next to the summary of Paul's conversion based on the account found in Acts 9. If you read the story in Acts 9, there is no mention of a horse. The horse was brought in during the medieval period, assuming that Paul was some kind of military commander. Such people ride horses. Falling off a horse, especially a big one, looks dramatic. Visual artists have been creative in this regard. Let us see a few pictures. If we look at the earliest known representations of this scene, there is no horse. Paul simply falls to the ground. I also suggest another way to read this account that may be less dramatic but more coherent with what we see in the Bible. Let us recall the episode of the burning bush at the beginning of the book of Exodus. When Moses approaches the burning bush, a voice calls him by his name, tells him to take off his shoes because he's on holy ground. When representing this scene, several visual artists portray Moses as kneeling down as a sign of respect before the sacred. I suggest understanding in the same way Paul's falling down when he encounters Jesus on the road to Damascus, that is, as a reaction to the encounter of the sacred.